Hey believers, I'm excited because today we're talking about promises from God. And I know in a season when things are not going the way that you need them, desire, or want them to go, that sometimes it's difficult to hear that God has promises for you. But if you can give me a few minutes, I promise you that understanding the promises God has for you and how we navigate them will absolutely help you center yourself while you wait. Because isn't it hard to know that you can have more than you have right now, but for whatever reason you just don't seem to be able to lay hold to it? It's really challenging when you know that God has more for you. If you know God has more for you than what you have right now, I want you to just type more. That you are not content. It's not that you are ungrateful, because you know God has brought you a mighty long way, but there's a degree of discontentment that has you struggling, saying, God, listen, I know there's more for me. And the frustration is often between knowing there's more and seeing more. Does that make sense? So we're going to talk about this through the backdrop of a thought about how our choices impact everything we can lay hold to. I love it the way Deuteronomy 30:19 says that God says, I call heaven and earth to record this day against you, that I've set before you life and death. God set before us choices, and he says, I set before you blessings and curses, and he says, therefore choose life, that both you and basically everything connected to you will live. And the thread of the thought that we're going to be opening up is I choose life. And in that choice perpetuates the promises that God has for us. And when we understand God has a promise for us, then that means we understand God has a plan for our life. Without a plan, there would be no reason for God to make a promise. The only reason that there's a plan is to usher you into his promise. And God gives the pathway of his plans for you with his promises. And as long as we follow his plan, somebody type follow him. I didn't say it's easy. He never said it would be. But you need to follow him. If you can follow him, you can discover his promises. Somebody type follow him. So often, people seek his promises. Now watch this. They're looking for his promises, but they're not interested in his plan for their lives. It's like someone who wants the benefits or perks of a marriage without the commitment. A lot of people are looking for God's blessings, his promises, but they're not really interested in God. They're interested in his hand, what he can give them. They're interested in his hand, but not his heart. And the marriage, just like you can't have a marriage without commitment. Marriage is not perks. Marriage is not about the perks. Marriage is about the covenant. Follow me now. When the relationship is strong, the commitment is strong. You show me a strong relationship, I'll show you a strong commitment. And when we understand that we can't let what we're going through affect our relationship with God. Because if we're going through some stuff, and most of us in all likelihood are, or no matter where you are in the spectrum, there are some people who have testified to me that during this season, financially, their business, their ministry is actually doing better or as good. You know, I had one pastor tell me just yesterday that we're on track to meet our best year, which was just last year. So some people are doing great in one area, but when it comes to another, there's a struggle. Have you ever had that kind of situation where, you know, you like one or two or three parts of your life, but on the other end, it's like frustrating because you're like, this isn't really what it should be. And often, if you're not careful, you'll focus on what isn't right, and you'll start to just minimize what's strong or what's well, right? So when you understand that our relationship has to be strong to maintain a commitment, right? And if our relationship with God becomes more like, I can't, I can't pray, I can't seek you, I can't right now, I just need a moment. When your moment becomes more than a moment, when your moment becomes a season, that means your relationship is in jeopardy. That means that now God is now standing by saying, I need to know whether you're committed to me. And because God gives us free will, and I tell people all the time, you can ask God when you get to heaven if you want, what's up with this free will thing, because if I was God, nobody would have a choice. I'd be like, y'all, I made you, I made the earth, I made the air you breathe, I made the food you eat. Oh, you will be loving me. If I was, just be glad there's no God Vandy. I don't know about you. You might be the kind of God that's so benevolent. Hey, you could pick me. You can choose me if you like. Most of us, we get an attitude if we do everything for our children and our children turn around and blow us off. So God, in his love, has a level of love that somebody just said, I know that's real. God in his infinite love for us that knows no boundaries, for whatever reason, he gives us these abilities to choose. He doesn't control our choice. He says you can choose life. Now, I want to make sure I make this real clear that even though we are predestined, God, he knows our choices before we make them because he's eternal past and future. But the choices are still ours. You make your own bed in God's eyes. You can choose life or death, he says. You can choose blessings or curses. Somebody say, I choose to be blessed. And when we choose right, then we start walking down the path of his purpose, path of his plan. And God is like, I need you to come up from the negativity, because there's a lot of negativity in our world. Have you noticed that in just a few short months, the negativity has elevated? It's almost like a scent in the air that you walk through your day and you're inundated with negativity. There is so much negativity that the enemy is feeling like just release to just produce more and produce more. And we always had a negative world. It just didn't seem to have the authority it has now. So when we allow the negativity, or when we allow our season, when we allow what we're going through to shape us and negatively affect us, to affect our world, our heart, our head, meaning the way we think. If our relationship is deeper with God, those external things wouldn't shake us so. And a lot of these things are shaking you only because your relationship with God is not where it needs to be. Which means if I get my relationship right, what's shaking me won't shake me the same. Doesn't mean you won't feel it, but it won't have the authority if you give God the authority in your life. So our eternal relationship with Christ can anchor us. And that's what we're really talking about. You have to choose God, choose Jesus, choose the deeper relationship, choose to say, I'm going to anchor myself in the Lord, because far too many of us allow what shakes us to shape us. I know I'm right about it. When you start to go through enough, when you get shaken enough, then you will let that shape you. And you can start out one way, meaning you can start out kind of pleasant. You ever kind of look at the journey of people's lives and instead of just looking at the person who's depressed all the time or bitter all the time or whatever all the time, the reality is very few of them you can trace that back to when they were little, always being the same way. A lot of times there's a sparkle in their eye. You get into a relationship. At first, it's just, Hollywood is swinging, everything is going real good. It feels nice, it's like Tony, it feels good, everything is, it's lovely. And then all of a sudden it evolves. And if you're not careful, The seasons that you go through will shape you. So what you went through isn't supposed to shape you, even though it shook you. And oftentimes, because we're not paying attention to each of the choices as we're going through and navigating our challenges, and if you're going through things, you need to go through them understanding that it's going to shake you, but it's not supposed to shape you. You're not supposed to become bitter because they walked off. Okay, there's some people that are bitter for just because of whatever shook them, and because you think a thing, you believe it, and you receive it, and if you can believe God and his promises and receive them, you can shake it off. Somebody type shake it off. You can just shake off some stuff that the enemy is trying to put on you. It's like the enemy can put on depression, he can put on low self-esteem, and you can literally just shake it off. Somebody type shake it off. Because you are not supposed to let it shape you. Your praise is supposed to still find a way to come forward. Your worship is supposed to still find a way to come forward. If you're in a season and you find that it's difficult, that means that what you're in is beginning to shape your heart. It's shaping your feelings, shaping your praise, shaping your relationship, where you move from I believe God has got me to I don't even know if God cares. Have you ever had a season where you were like, I don't even know if God is really watching, if he cares, because it seems like my prayers are not being answered. But I want you to be encouraged, because what's shaking you is not going to shape you if you let your relationship with God come forward and dig deeper. God's plan from the foundations of the world, and I'm about out. I want you to catch this. God's plan from the foundation of the world all the way to Jesus' second coming is to have a deeper relationship with you. That's God's plan, right? And the kind of relationship that God desires to have with you is so deep. He wants it to be so deep that COVID can shake but not shatter it. God wants the kind of relationship with you that unemployment cannot usurp. God knows if our relationship is strong enough, you'll stick to his plan. You'll encourage somebody and type stick to his plan. If what shakes you begins to shape you, you will deviate from God's plan and start going your own way. And that's how people fall away. We only deviate from his plan when our relationship isn't strong enough to be tested. Have you ever been in a relationship that you thought was strong until it was tested? I don't know what that test looked like. Maybe it was a test of trust. Maybe it was a test of fidelity. Maybe it was a test of breaking dysfunctional cycles. Maybe who you used to be or who they used to be resurfaced. And you discovered you thought your relationship was stronger than who they used to be. And if you've been in a situation where you had a relationship that you really believed, you was like, man, this is, I like where we are, but you didn't let it get tested yet. I always tell people, you don't know what you have until it's tested. You don't know if you have a real friend until it's tested. You don't know if you have a strong relationship, friendship, husband, wife. You don't know what you're working with till it's tested. If you don't test the thing, the worst thing to do is to find out it's not what you thought it was after you invested all your hopes in it. So everything you thought you knew about who you were in relationship with can easily be shattered when the relationship is tested. Come on, talk to me. Now if you're not going to talk to me, come on, type to me. Somebody type, I know that's right. Because you thought you knew stuff about this person, or you thought you knew about this opportunity, or you thought you knew, but when it's tested, sometimes the test is not always as obvious as if it's a relationship, there's a fight or a disagreement, or, as my wife loves to call it, intense moment of fellowship. Sometimes it could be you're tested when you get shaken by financial distress, or shaken by some other, health matter one person deals with. Sometimes, and then when you thought the person would be there for you, that means your expectation level was high and you end up dropping hard. Because I tell people all the time, you can never be disappointed unless you have expectations. So if you keep your expectations balanced based on what I see, if I base my expectations on actual history, actual occurrences, I see the test and we pass it, I can have a little more expectation that we can do better if we face a test. But if nothing's ever been tested, and you don't know what you're working with, your heart can be, your whole psyche can be shattered. It's amazing how all the I love yous in the world didn't mean a thing when your relationship was tested. Can I tell some of you watching, I want you to hear me in the spirit, because I know a lot of you have different tests right now. I know there's a lot of weight on some of you. I know there's a lot of challenges financially, your business, your dreams, your own state of mind is being just tested right now. And I know at times you feel God doesn't care. He's not listening. My prayers is like, I don't even want to pray because it feels like I'm begging. I know you feel tempted to give up on some things sometime, some folk. But I want to encourage you. This is only a test. And I'm old enough to remember when every now and then on television, I could be in the middle of a moment enjoying what's happening, and all of a sudden it would pop up on the screen, and I don't see this no more. So I guess, I don't know what to make of that, but it'd just pop up on the screen and say, this is only a test. If this had been an actual emergency, the signal, blah, 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 you're dealing with, right? So I want to encourage you watching that if you feel tested, this is only a test. If this had been an actual emergency, the signal, the season, the situation you're dealing with, you would have been given information, news, or instruction. I remember it because it always came on. So, hey, if this had been an actual emergency while you're in the test, don't turn a stepping stone into your seat. Hear me again. This test is a stepping stone. Do not make it a seat and you sit in this season and think this is all that God has for you. Your test is a stepping stone, not a seat. Somebody say, my test is a stepping stone, not a seat. You're not designed to stay in this. If it's not supposed to shape you. If this had been an actual emergency, meaning if this is actually all that you can ever expect your life to look like, you would be being given information, news, or instruction to walk you right out of this, because God has a promise in your life that you would have more. You would be the head and not the tail. You will be above only and not beneath. And you need to recognize that this test is something for me to step on to become my testimony. Somebody say, I know that's right. Say, it's gonna be my testimony, or it is my testimony. And so I just stopped by today for those of you who may be dealing with an actual emergency, to give you some information, some news and instruction. So if I'm going to give you information and news and instruction, let me give you the word. 2 Corinthians 4:8 says, we are troubled on every side, yet not distressed. We are perplexed, but not in despair. And that word trouble, it means we're crowded. So when you feel pressed and flooded with problems, your word says that yes, you have that real trouble and stress on every side, but you are not supposed to be distressed. And that word distress, it means that you are able to express yourself. So when he says you're not, then he's saying you may be pressed, but you are not unable to express yourself, which means that if you can just begin to open your mouth can make a way. If you can begin to just open your mouth and give God the recognition, the praise in the moment, to say, you know what, weeping may endure for a night, but I know I've got joy on the other side. Your mouth can make a way. Somebody say, my mouth can make a way. That's why Jesus said, if you have a little bit of faith, speak. Don't get silent in this season. Don't accept what is testifying to you that this is all you have, so sit down in it. No, this is my stepping stone. This is only a test. And while the thread of the thought that we're going to be teaching a few thoughts from is I choose to live. Right? I choose life. I choose to live. What's important is this conversation is choose to pass the test, because it's only a test. You need to speak. Open your mouth in this season. When you are telling yourself, I don't know if I can make it, you need to throw that away and say, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And what you hear me in the spirit, what you say to yourself, is more important than anything anybody else can say to you. Just ask the woman with the issue of blood. Doctors told her give up. They told her you're never going to get better. Money couldn't do it for her. But what she had said was all that mattered. And whether you say it out loud or say it to yourself, within yourself, this woman said, if I can but touch, right, the hem of his garment, I shall be made whole. And if you read Matthew 9:22, that Jesus says to that woman, he says, girl, you thought it was my garment that did it for you. That garment did not heal that woman. Just read your Bible. Jesus says, thy faith has made you whole. In other words, what you told yourself is what you believe. And she told herself, he can do it for me. So according to your faith, be it unto you, somebody type, I believe. All you need to do is remind yourself you are a believer. Remind yourself, I believe. And if you can just trust in the Lord, somebody say, I trust him. If you can just look at your test and say, this is just a test. This is only a test. It is not supposed to become my life. This is just a test that will become a testimony. And if you receive, somebody type, I receive. God bless you. Hey, listen, we do want you to just support what we do. And it also allows you to contribute into the message and the service moment that we have to minister to you. Because when you do offer to help ministries, to move the gospel, when you give generously, these are all things the Bible is very clear about concerning blessings, concerning our Christian obligation, that we ought to be supportive and we ought to help perpetuate the kingdom. So if you're being blessed, we're blessed to be a blessing. If you have not accepted Jesus Christ, please, it would be the best decision. You would literally be choosing to live. All you have to do is say, Lord, I believe that you have died for my sins. You rose on the third day. Lord, I need you to be my God. However the word you use, there is nothing. It is as simple as you believing the work on the cross was for you. That Jesus died and shed his life, came back, rose, and now we can live eternally, and you'll be blessed. So I'm looking forward to helping you navigate through this season. So make sure you follow us. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and social media platforms so you don't miss the word, and share it. Share it with someone because they're going through a test and you would never know. God bless you.